Hello everybody, welcome back to the channel. My name is Eddie. Hopefully you guys are having a good day or night. I'm going to be doing another one of my stand-up videos where I go over a feature that I've recently developed, explain my thought process and why I made the decisions that I made. If you guys are liking these videos, please do give them a thumbs up. It helps me out a lot. If you guys have any comments or questions, leave them down in the comments below. I read them all. And please do remember to subscribe to the channel. It really does help out a lot. Alright, so let's get into it. In the last video, we were working on these little bars here that grow and decrease as load comes into our Kubernetes cluster. I've done more work to kind of visualize that data with the actual values here, our node name and our pod numbers, and calculating percentages. I also added this form field here. Before, I would have to go and get all the cookies and stuff and get a valid auth token. Now I just have a place where I can drop in an auth token that I know is valid, and our API will work as long as I put in the correct information there. Yeah, it just adds a little bit of ease for development. But we can get into the actual application here. I'm going to move this a little bit so I can see better. Hopefully you guys are seeing well. That should be good actually. Alright, so we really gutted out a lot of the code. Before we had a bunch of use effect chains here that I said in my last video I really didn't like. And now really we just have one to check the auth token. And when the auth token is valid, we go and we get our cluster data. Then, when we have the cluster data, inside of there, we're going to have a, I can just, actually, maybe over here will be better. I can make this larger and we can look at a response here and look at the result. And keep drilling down till we see our actual object here. So when we see here what our object looks like, it is just an array of clusters with metric data and information about the pods running inside of them. So when we get that from our API, we can just iterate over all of the items in that list, storing the information in a thing called data, and then we grab the index and we can start creating nodes out of them, or node cards, and that's what these whole things are. It's just an extra component, and oops, we can go and look at that component and we could see that in our component there's a lot of stuff I have to gut out of here. I should have done this before the video, because really what we're doing is we're just passing the data CPU and data capacity and memory capacity and memory. So we actually don't do radius here, we don't do the circumference, we don't do CPU decimals, we don't do any of this here anymore, none of that, none of that. Oh, actually, we do CPU percent, and actually there is quite a bit we do still here. So hold on. Boop, boop, boop. All right. So we don't do radius, we don't do circumference. We do get that CPU decimal. We don't need the CPU object here, and that is it. And I could probably clean this up a little bit more, and I will in the future, but for now I'll just go over it. The CPU decimal, this is what we use for our graph, but for now we're using it to get our percentage. Okay, so this, hold on, I'm doing a little bit of live code in here. Bear with me. we could probably get the decimal like that. Times 100, and let's do this calculation first. And I think something is wrong, messing up. Number is closed. That is closed. I need one more here. And that closes that out, and oh, timeout. Hold on, I might have messed up here. Oh, I see what I did. Ugh. CPU decimal, no. Why is it? It's grabbing the wrong thing. All right, maybe if I just Shift D here, erase here, paste that in here. That's for that, but I want to encompass all of that. And now I could remove the decimal, and there we go. Okay, I think that is all of the stuff we don't really need, right? So we have this CPU percent, which gives us the percentage, and we're just taking really what we're doing is we're just taking the value that we have on the CPU and our capacity, dividing it by each other, and then multiplying it by 100, and that gives us a percentage value. We round it down to the nearest whole number. That makes sense. All this replacement stuff is just to get rid of some trailing unit numbers, like in milli-CPUs or nano-CPUs. This will be edited soon in the future, but for now it's all in there. We have the memory capacity, and we do that same replacement stuff. The reason that I say that it's going to be removed in the future is because the way the Kubernetes API gives us the data, the metric changes, the actual unit of what data we're using changes. So I'm going to have the API just kind of see what it is and then change it to a normalized version so that we can actually work with it a lot easier when we get it. But yeah, we do the same thing that we do for the CPU percent down here with the memory. We change this from kilobytes or megabytes down to a normalized megabyte, just so that it's easier to work with. But like I said, the value that we're actually getting is going to be different depending on how big the data is. So we need something there to work with it a lot better, to realize what it is we're actually getting and then change it. Like there's a bug here where we might get the wrong data and then this entire thing crashes. But for development right now, it's not something I'm super concerned with. Right, so then we just start creating that component. Here is those labels for the name and the pods. And we have some components for a CPU ring and a memory ring. Those are our graphs. And then we have the percentages, or the actual values and the percentages. And you can see here, we're adding back that MI into it. Yeah, let's move on. And then, oh yeah, the percentages here. So we calculate the percentages, and then we have the actual raw numbers here. We can look at a ring. We've kind of seen what these rings are already, but I'll just show them off one more time. We start out with a basic radius. We get the circumference of the ring, and then we calculate. I don't think we need decimal here. Oh, yes, we do. We calculate the, this is the opposite of the percent. So this is not a value. This will be in decimal form. So this is before we multiply it by 100 to get the actual number value. Then we create this object here of ring. If we go here, we just have a type that defines what a ring is. And we set the radius, the circumference, and the dash offset. So the radius is, what half the circle is, or, and the circumference is how wide your circle is going to be, and then your dash offset is what we use to actually clamp it down to where on that half circle it's going to be. And you see that the dash offset is always divided by 2 because we're not calculating a full circle, we're calculating only a half. Boom, boom. And then, we just render out a half circle, right? Pretty easy. Right now there's basic values that we're putting in there, like the color of the green and the width of this circle and all that stuff, but those should be controlled programmatically. Let's see, we can go back and look at this memory ring, and the memory ring is the way that we get it into its position is we just change its radius, right? It's now going to be a smaller circle than the other circle. And we just create that same exact circle, but this time we're using that memory data instead of CPU data. And that is what we're working with right now. Let's see if I have some time. We have a little bit of time to talk about this. So we found something that is not exactly what we want, right? So when we look at 950 out of 2000M, and when we ask Kubernetes, describe node, right? When we describe, I still have all these events in here. Let's describe another one. This one too. All right, well, when we describe a node, we get these allocated resources, and we imagine that these requests and these limits mean something. But in reality, it really, what it is talking about is how much are we allowing for it to be committed, and then how many resources do we have, right? So 950M out of 2000, you would think that what we're getting back from Kubernetes is that we're using right now 950 M's of CPU and we have 2000, but what it's saying is we've allowed this pod to go to we've requisitioned 950 M's out of our 2000. And you would think that, you'd look and say, well, we have limits and our limits are 0, but these are also can be viewed as limits. These aren't how much we're actually using. To see what we're actually using, you need this whole Kubernetes metrics deployment, like an actual service running on it. But it gives you no resources found in the default namespace. Let's see, all namespaces. We could actually see how much we're actually using here and how much memory we're actually using now that we have this Kubernetes metric server is what it's called. And what I'm going to need to do is actually, by accessing this API's metrics nodes, I'll be able to see how much CPU usage is on the actual node. So I don't have to do that math of adding up all the pods. I spent a bunch of time like writing algorithms to do that, and apparently you don't have to. You could just ask the metrics server how much is being used. I didn't actually have this. Well, I did have it installed. I will say that I had it installed, but it was failed, and it wasn't actually doing anything. It took. I had to. Let's see if I needed to add this extra config kubelet housekeeping interval variable so that the metric server would actually run. Took me a couple of hours of reading through a bunch of GitHub issues to figure it out. But yeah, that's what I'm going to be working on probably in the next video. Probably two things that I really want to get done. And one is I want to figure out a way of converting all these metrics to a base unit that I could then work with for all my future requests. And the data just comes in, and whatever comes in, I can normalize it and then figure it out and then convert it to whatever I want at the end of the day. So I want something for that with memory and the CPU. And then also I'm gonna have to switch over to gating my metrics this way. And I'll probably need some sort of fallback for when people are using this service but they don't have the metric server installed. I'll probably just show them this with a tooltip saying, hey, this is just your committed resources, not what you're actually using. Please install the metric server so that we can give you more accurate data. But yep, that is basically what I've been working on kind of over the weekend and today. Hopefully you guys enjoyed it. If you guys have any questions, leave them down in the comments below. I get to all of them. Give this video a like if you've made it this far, and subscribe to the channel to not miss any videos that come out. Bye bye.